Hello and welcome to another STEM in a Box instructional video. We're having a look at the moment at creating a really basic generic animation introduction for your animation project. Now the core tasks are here, and the first thing is I've just quickly jotted down an algorithm, my plan of attack. Many ways to do this, but I'm just going to do it really simply. So my plan is to make a stage backdrop that everything's going to happen on, and then the way that I'm going to introduce my topic and what class I'm in and all that sort of thing is I'm just going to make a sprite, and I'm going to put all that information in a sprite, you see, and then I'm going to show and hide that sprite. So really simple. And then after that, what I'm going to do is my three members, and well, two others including me, I'm just going to have them in the corners, and then they're going to move down to the middle of the stage and then introduce themselves and say who they are and then go back to their corner, and then all three of us will just say something. And then how are we going to control everything? I'm just going to keep it really simple and just use time. That's it. So really simple, just some simple time and some simple movements and showing and hiding. That's it. Okay, let's proceed. So first thing we're going to do is create a stage image, use that as our backdrop. So we're going to go over here to the stage backdrop and go to backdrops and go to the menu here, and I've already decided that I'm going to use the stage backdrop, which is down here somewhere. There we go. That's the one I'm going to use. Excellent. So just going to call that stage, well, it's already named stage 1. Okay, so that's my backdrop. Now what I'm going to do is I've already decided my algorithm that what I'm going to do is use sprites to have my introduction, basically text boxes come up. Is I can go and just change the costume of this one if I like. So if I want to create a new, paint a new costume there, I can click on that button, the pen button. Now I'd recommend that you go to vector. So what we're going to do now is just going to change that name, and it's going to be introduction. Okay, excellent. So that's the sprite. Now as you can see, the easiest thing is just to have it fill the window. So you have it fill the stage. Okay, so that's easy. Okay, great. So what we want to do now is decide, oh, all right, well look, how long do we want that to display? All right, so that's easy. So what we're going to do is just use the show and hide. So when we click on the start button, so we'll go and get that. And we want it to show initially, of course, and then we want to hide after a certain amount of time, because we've already decided that we're just going to use time and movement, and that's it. So in control, let's say we want that to go for 5 seconds. Let's just see how we go. All right, so now we can test that little code snippet, take it away from there and test it. So it should, after 5 seconds, it should go hide, and you'll see the, that's it. Great, excellent. Okay, so step 1 done. So what we want to do is have 3 sprites to represent our 3 characters and have them be in the corner and then move into the middle and introduce themselves. That's it. So that's our plan. So that means we need to go and make a new sprite. So we'll just start with 1. So I'm going to be the bat. Okay, so that's going to be Johnny. And then I'm going to have Johnny go up there in the corner like that. Now that's too big, so if we go to looks and then we can go change size, so we can just see what size looks better. So I'm just going to go 25%, and then I'm going to click on it to execute it. So that let's make it 50. Okay, good. All right, so that's about what I want Johnny to be there in the corner. If we go to motion, and then wherever you put the sprite, you'll see it's really handy. It actually pre-populates the go-to X and Y there. So that's really handy if in the beginning of the game you get it to go to that coordinate, which is where I want it to go. Okay, now what do I want it to do? I want it to glide. So if you're not sure what the coordinate system of the stage is, we're going to move it to where we want it, which is about there. Okay, and then at that stage I've decided that I want it to go back to a little bit bigger than its normal size. So we're going to go to looks and then go to set size again, and we're going to make that 150, and we're just going to click on that to see if that's what I want. Yep, that's what I want. That looks good. And now we need to know, where is that position. So like I said before, if you go to motion, wherever you drag the sprite to, it will pre-populate the go-to blocks for you, and also the glide. And that's actually what we want. I'm going to use the glide. If you use the go-to, that's fine, but it'll just do it like in an instant in a really sharp, jolty sort of jump. Whereas if we use the glide, it just looks a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to use time. So we're going to get it, this is Johnny, we're going to get Johnny to stay up there in the corner for maybe 3 seconds. So we're going to go to control their weight, so say weight 3, and then we're going to get it to move to the position it is now, which is -15 and -68 in the Y, and we're going to say take 2 seconds to glide there. So let's just see what, and then we're going to get it to grow. So now we're just going to test this code snippet. Should be 3 seconds, good. Take 2 seconds to go there, that's it, and then go to that size. Now what we want it to do is just to introduce, this is one of our characters, so this is Johnny B. So we're going to get Johnny B to go to looks and then say, introduce himself. Okay, so we'll just use the easiest way, just say for a certain amount of time. So let's check that. Good, goes back up to the corner, which is what it should do. It should stay there for 3 seconds. Glide for 2. Hi, welcome to our Scratch. Yeah, I'm Johnny B, and please welcome our other team members. Great. And then you want it to disappear. So that's going to be the show and the hide. Okay, so we'll use the show at the beginning. You don't have to, but you might as well. And then the hide, we want a little bit of a wait. So let's just go wait 1 second and then go back to hide. Now let's try that all again. You see how I'm doing one little code snippet, testing it, adding something else, testing it, adding something else, testing it. Great, good. I'm pretty happy with that. So now that's essentially what I want one character to do. And so the other characters are just really going to be multiples of that. So let's put the start in. So how are we going to keep track of time? Well, we know that the first sprite, which is our title slide, okay, was taking 5 seconds. So we don't want Johnny B to appear until the title slide disappears. So we actually want to wait 5 seconds before the bat appears, you see, because the title slide is going to be there. So let's just put 5 seconds in there, and we're just using time. Okay, so you could storyboard this. Excellent. So let's try that from the beginning now. So so that should be there for 5 seconds, and then yes, great. Glides down, terrific. Yes, speaks, and then should disappear. Excellent. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So we're doing one thing at a time and we're testing. Now, the other characters are just going to be essentially exactly the same movement, except they're just going to start in a different corner, because that's what our algorithm, that's what my plan was, you see. So I'll show you a really neat trick. If we go over hover over the bat here, which is one of the sprites, and then duplicate, we've got bat 2, but the interesting thing is that we've also got all the code. So we don't have to rewrite it all because it's going to be so similar, very much the same. We can just modify it, so it's going to save a lot of time. But first things first, let's go and change the costume. Okay, so I don't want it to be a bat, so let's go and get another one. So this is going to be Sandra. So Sandra's going to be allowed to pick whatever she wants to be. So I'm just randomly choosing that. So she's going to be a butterfly, but I'm going to rename that Sandra. Okay, great. And then go back down here and then rename that Sandra 2. Okay. Rightio. Okay, so that's the first thing, and we don't need those now. We can delete those other costumes. So they were costumes to the sprite. Okay, you can have multiple sprites, multiple costumes for the same sprite. So now let's go back to here. So this is the code that was associated with the bat. Now that's Johnny B, so I need to rename that Johnny. You see, so that's Johnny B. Okay, great. So this is the code associated with Sandra at the moment, which is just Johnny B's code. So let's change it. So the first thing is that where do we want Sandra to appear? Well, Johnny B is up the top here. So let's make it show. Now that's too big. So let's set the size to 50%. So yep, that's about right. Good. Okay. Now Johnny B was up here in the top right, so we want Sandra up here in the top left. So that's going to be a different go-to, you see. So if we go to looks and not looks, go to motion, and because we've already got the go-to there, the other method to find out what the coordinates are is to put your mouse where you want to know the coordinates of, which is over Sandra at the moment, and you look down here in the bottom right hand corner and you'll see the coordinates. So X is -210 and Y is 144. So that means I've got to put those coordinates in there, -210 and -144. Okay, so let's just check that that's correct by, oh, no, got that wrong, you see. So no, that's Y +144, goose. Okay, so let's click that. So whenever you click the code snippet, it executes it. You don't want to click the whole, the whole code block, the whole lot, because then you'll run the whole thing. So I'm just clicking that. So that's good. That's what I want. So let's move on. So I'm using, I'm putting some code in and then I'm testing. I don't want to grab a whole bunch of stuff and then put it all together and then run the whole thing and then it just goes everywhere and I've got no idea what's going on. Okay, that is not the way to assemble complicated projects. Okay, you do one little thing and then you test it, which is what we're doing. Figure out how long does Johnny B take. So we've got 5 seconds for the intro, so that's the 5 seconds there. Then we've got another 3 here, which is 8, and then Johnny takes 2 seconds to glide, so that's 10, and takes another 2 to say that, which is 12, plus another 2 to say this, which is 14, and then waits another one before it disappears. So that's 15 seconds. So we're now up to 15 seconds. So that means Sandra can appear at 15 seconds. So we've got to change the wait to 15 so that Sandra will appear the very moment that Johnny B disappears. So the rest of it's going to be the same except the glides. No, the glide point is going to be the same, all right, because it's in the middle, so that's not going to change. The size should be the same. Except we don't want them to say exactly the same thing, do we? So we can probably get rid of that one, and we can probably just change this. Good, excellent. So I'm going to put that back up there with that, and then we're going to do the same thing. We've got one more character to do. We're just going to right click, duplicate, go back. So I'm going to move quickly now. We're going to go and get our last character, which is Cassie, I believe. So we will do the same. So we will get rid of that one, and we will rename this one and call it Cassie. Okay, and call that one Cassie. So what's the difference between this one down here is the sprite and this one down here is the costume? So I'm using the same name, but that's why it's two different places. This down here is the sprite and this is the costume. Okay, so Cassie the sprite is wearing Cassie the costume. Alrighty. Okay, so now let's go back to the scripts, which are exactly the same as Sandra. So now we need to go back to Sandra and find out how much time we're up to. So we've got 15 to when Sandra appears, then 3 is 18, another 2 is 20, another 2 is 22, and 1 is 23. So we want Cassie to appear 23 seconds into the animation. And where do we want Cassie to appear? Well, I think we should have Cassie maybe, well, I did say the corners, so we'll put Cassie down in this bottom hand corner over here, which is about -220, -100. Okay, so negative, we'll leave it like that, -100. So what we'll do is we'll just try that. Yep, that's about where I want it. Great. Excellent. Okay, so that's our exit slide. Okay, so we're just going to make that appear for, say, not long, say 2 seconds. Okay, so we don't need the other ones. We're going to delete the other costumes. Okay, so we'll go back to scripts. Now we just need to do a final time now, so we're up to 23, 26, 28, 30, 31. So we want the final slide to appear at 31, so we need to put 31 there, 31, and we don't want 5 seconds, not much to read. Let's make it 2. Okay, so let's just try that. Oh, we just need to move it a bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is show it, and then I'm just going to move it like that. Okay, with my mouse. So great. Let's recap that. So what we've got is we've got the stage as a backdrop, which is what we wanted, and then we've got the introductory slide appearing for 5 seconds, and then we've got Johnny B coming down, and Sandra, and then Cassie, and then the final slide. Okay, so let's have a look what it looks like. So we're going to go to full screen mode here, and then start it. Okay, so that went really well. Everything's worked. So what we need to do now is we just need to touch up and annotate or comment our code properly so that we understand everything that's going on and that we can communicate that to our co-members or someone else who picks up the project, or if we hand this in for assessment. Great, so we're just going to go over that. So this is the title slide, this is the exemplar, this is the title slide, so it's got our task up there. We're only looking at the core tasks here. We haven't started the extension. The algorithm's over there, and then I have already annotated this. So I put comments in here. So this controls the intro slide, and it's displaying for 5 seconds and then disappearing. And then I've done the same thing in here. Now, what you'll notice is that I've got just like a time tracker, because it's really important to keep track of time here. So what I'm putting down the bottom is a tracker there. So I've said, look, the intro slide takes 5 seconds, and that's why that's 5 there, wait 5 at the top before Johnny appears. And then I added up all of the time that Johnny takes to do different things, and that's going to be 3 here, and then 2 there, that's 5, and another 4 there, that's 9, and then a wait at the end, so that's 10. So Johnny's got 10. So now we're up to 15 seconds. So I've just annotated or commented pretty much the same thing there for Sandra, and then Sandra only says one thing, so she only takes 2 seconds instead of 4 seconds. So Sandra's time is only 8 seconds, and that's now up to 23 seconds. So down the bottom, when Sandra disappears, that's at the end of 23 seconds, okay? And then Cassie, and that's why Cassie has to wait 23 seconds before she shows herself, okay? And then Cassie takes another 8 seconds, and so that's 31 seconds. And so with the final slide, that's why we have to wait 31 seconds for the final slide to show, okay? So the most important thing is to systematically keep track of time there, and to make sure that you go over your code and systematically explain in English words like I've done here, trying not to use the words that are in the block. So for example, the block says go to x negative 210 and y 144, so it really wouldn't help to say exactly the same thing in English, would it? So we really need to use different words or paraphrase. So I've said start at top left corner, because that's the action that we want. And likewise here, don't say in English in your comment set size to 50%, because that's what the block says. So what you need to say is, well, shrink to half normal size, okay? Likewise here, where it says show, I haven't said show Sandra, I've said Sandra appears, okay? So it's really important when you comment or annotate, there is no point, you're adding nothing to the communication of the logic if you use the same words that are in the block. And you'll get a low mark if your teacher marks that, because you're not adding any information, you're not communicating that you understand anything. So this is part of how the teachers are going to figure out whether you understand much, is whether you can say the same thing in a different set of words. Okay, great. So this is our finished core task as an exemplar. Thank you so much for listening.